And we're back. Um, so moving forward from episodes 6 to, I believe, yes, 6 to 10. We are, episode 6 is Crank That Killer. Um, Paperboy is met up with some crazies, especially with the filming of a particular video he did back in the day, and he's fearing for his life. There's so many, and again, it's very telling how the show mimics current events, um, and how we're constantly seeing these, you know, I can't think of another word, but mass shootings that are becoming more regular, which is this really incredibly scary thought that this is just constantly happening. In fact, this past weekend we had a situation in Colorado that's still under investigation. But again, I'm not trying to politicize this channel, just letting it be known that that's more or less what we're kind of dealing with in this episode. And also how the fascination for Nikes too have taken over, how people will do just about anything for a pair of sneakers, which ultimately you end up soiling anyway. So I never understood that concept. But I guess you could say that about Louis Vuittons, right? How women are obsessed with their heels. But nonetheless, still, like, the fact that Darius is nearly forced to, or rather, Ern is forced to kiss Darius for a pair of sneakers, because Darius is kind of down. He puts his machismo to his side, and he's kind of like, yeah, it's just a kiss. Let's get this over with. These are really good sneakers for, practically free if we just do this. But the guy who's selling them his sneakers in some like sketchy van, who, which is so funny because they were in the middle of the kiss. It's a small little tap kiss, but they weren't anticipating now that the connoisseur, I guess, the sneaker guy, gets shot by the crazy that was after Paperboy because of that ridiculous video, which ended up not being the actual killer that was killing people for some random purpose because of this whole video concept. It was just some kind of disgruntled ex friend of his. And because he is saved by the guy that he's been trying to avoid for most of the episode, a rapper that doesn't have those skills, now he feels that he owes him literally, because if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't be alive. So that's something. Snipe Hunt, episode 7, we see the rekindling of Van and Ern in the most honest and truthful and non rom com way, which I appreciate. I love seeing things that really do mimic real life, y'all. And they have a very small, intimate moment celebrating Lottie's birthday in this really beautiful campground that he's able to afford to have only for themselves. And though Van feels cornered, like, wasn't this some form of manipulation? And using Lottie's birthday, but he makes it clear that aside from the fact that he's moving to LA, would like Van to join him and leave Atlanta, it's because he's always loved her and really wants to build on that. And they have a really truthful moment. Beautiful, beautiful way of them to rekindle. And then, of course, my love of Sade. They put her everywhere in this episode. And I'm like, yes, your love is king, honey. And I love that episode for that. The goof who sat by the door was like a mockumentary. You think it's a real documentary, and even I had to Google search this because I said, is that really true? Did this really happen? But you're kind of baffled. You don't know what you're watching. And it's a guy that started out in just as a fan and drawing, and somehow is able to get into the proper schooling, and his ambition is to work for Disney and gets the job, but not like you would think. And there's a lot of mirror images here between this character and what we assume is Donald Glover's plight in perhaps growing up, and how this character is always because of his ambition and wanting to reach that brass ring and speaking a particular way, that he was always criticized as trying to be quote unquote white and being bullied because of that. And we see that with this character. And also kudos to Donald Glover and co, how they always implement people, especially maybe people who built his inspiration or gave him ambition to get to pursue an acting and comedy career. Because we see Sinbad from a different world, remember? And, you know, Sinbad also always had his own stand up comedy, but we see instances of Sinbad. We see Brian McKnight. They even brought hints of Tevin Campbell. They didn't bring Tevin Campbell, but his music, and I was a big Tevin Campbell fan, so that was also great to see. A great burst of nostalgia of the 90s, which coincides perfectly with the timestamp that they're doing this particular episode, which was one of those, like, you were not expecting episodes. And how our major character here, Thomas Washington, lucks out and becoming briefly the CEO of Disney, and he decides he's going to make the blackest movie of all time, a Goofy movie. And the pilot inspired by his relationship with his son Maxwell. So, but he goes over the edge, like implementing too many things, and he knew that his time was limited, so he was going to do as many outrageous stuff as he possibly could, and he does. But unfortunately, because I think he I don't know if he's an alcoholic in the episode, I believe so, but his relationship with his wife becomes destructive, and even with his son. And when he finds out that the movie was going to be pulled back from all of his suggestions, he can't take it or bear it, and somehow I think either commits suicide or he drowns in a lake. And so, but it was something. It was a really outrageous episode where I found myself like trying to Google if there was actual fact to it. So kudos to the team because they always make us think. It's a pensive type show. Andrew Wyeth and Alfred's World. I'm telling you, they always mess with poor Paperboy. They always mess with him. And we were wondering when it was going to happen this season, and it happened for episode 9, right before the end. And he goes through some trials and tribulations, trying to escape his issues, and has a farm. And he's able to get, I guess, some seeds that he cultivated from the rapper that was having his memorial, Blue Blood. And so he sows it. He sows these seeds, which eventually are like marijuana seeds. But he didn't know that he was going to attract wild hogs. And he thought there was a nicer way of dealing with them, like finding some form of repellent, but that doesn't work. And he's like in the boondocks of God only knows where. And he goes to like this like random hardware store and I don't know, other kind of store. And you could tell that you know, you're really in the South, so you kind of have to watch yourself. And, you know, the guy even, like, warns him, the owner of the store says, like, well, you know, those wild hogs are known to, like, kill. And he starts laughing, doesn't think anything of it. He also is able to kind of, like, Paperboy is able to kind of, like, YouTube his way through fixing a tractor, and the tractor totally flips over, goes over a cliff, pulverizes one of his ankles. He is crippled. He can barely make it back to the house. Thankfully, he wasn't too far, but still. An Amazon delivery person comes and he's screaming for dear life. And that person, because of headphones, typical, doesn't hear him. He's in agony. It really feels like the beginnings of a horrible, horrible horror movie. He crawls back to his house and he's met with one of the hogs where it nearly kills him. And if it wasn't for the dang skillet that he ordered himself off of Amazon, he would not be alive to tell the tale. He was right. The guy from the convenience store was right. So Ern calls him and even kind of lets him know, like, hey, are you okay? You sound weird. And if anything happens to you, just be, you know, fair warning. It'll be like 2 weeks before we know that anything's happened. But somehow he just never confesses to him what just traumatizing event he just went through, which is crazy. But nonetheless, and then they have a moment about skin tone, and because he was like, I'm feeling pain. He's like, I think you have a sunburn. He's like, my shade of melanin, you know, black folks don't get sunburn. And Ern is like, yes, you can. But again, those little instances of comedy that will bring that climactic dramatic scene to a nice comedic buffering there. And then we're met with our last episode, which is It Was All a Dream. And we go and follow Darius's day, basically. And he gets himself involved in some... He plans a whole day. Darius's character plans a whole day based on I believe it's called a sensory deprivation pool, and I'm sure probably this is big, and it probably has been always big, right? Because I would assume something like that. I saw him in an episode of Frasier. We never saw Lilith, and she was always in some kind of, but I thought it was like some steam tub or something like that. But this has been like more known. In fact, I was at an exhibit, and I can link that if you guys are actually interested in seeing it. It was an exhibition they had, I think, in 2011, 2010, sometime around there, and they had it at the New Museum, and they had called it was an exhibition based on science, and it was called the Giant Psycho Tank 2000. Invites viewers to float weightlessly in the water of the sensory deprivation pool, providing a out-of-body experience. And that's what you kind of experience throughout most of the episode. And his way of kind of... And there's also hints of the movie Inception, and how there's a way to trick the mind into always coming back to reality. And Darius's go-to is seeing a thick Judge Judy with a big old booty, and that's how he snaps out of it. But for the episode, we kind of see that we're just kind of saying goodbye to him, and we're saying goodbye to all these characters, regardless of what we experience in that episode, and it gets wild. I mean, he has one friend, I think her name is London, and she's like all over the place. It's hella funny. But then he realizes that he's in the tank, and he keeps thinking he's in the tank all the way towards the end. And I won't spoil it for you in case you are a big fan, but there's sushi, and there's a getaway car again, and it just goes through all types of twists and turns, and it's really conscious of how sometimes we will support companies not of our own, just for whatever purposes, trends, because the taste is better, whatever the case may be. And then towards the end, we don't know if he necessarily is still in the tank. Because, even the way he rescues them, the getaway car was a stolen car. And they were like, what do you mean that was a stolen car? It was like, you can get arrested for that. And he's like, no, because I'm still in the tank. It's like, you're not in the tank. And then towards the end, Darius pans, looks straight at the camera, but he's looking at is at the TV. And we see Judy, but we don't know if he sees a thick Judy. If he sees a thick Judy, then it's been a whole entire dream. And he smiles and smirks. And I think that's our send-off. And it's kind of it's a teary-eyed moment for a lot of us, because we don't know when we will get this lucky again. I hope soon. I hope there'll be some form of spin-off. I would hope. But what a ride it's been, guys. And it really is an incredible piece of work, and I really hope that they do get all the flowers that they deserve and the nominations that they deserve. So I do recommend it. Atlanta season 4 is currently streaming on Hulu. If you like what you see, guys, let me know. Did you like this season like I did? Have you liked the last 4 seasons? Let us know in the comment section down below. And if you've seen my other reviews here of Atlanta, I will link them somewhere here in the video or in the description box. But let us know. What were your favorite moments from this season 4? Anywho, if you like what you see, give us a like. leave us a comment down below. If you like my videos and would like to continue to follow, you hit the subscription button and the notification button so you can be alerted of my next DIY review and haul. So until next time, y'all. XOXO. Nerdy girl, let's play this out with some Sade, shall we? Who doesn't love Sade? I'm telling you. That was the perfect artist to pick. Alright, y'all. XOXO. Nerdy girl.